Hello and welcome to That Book Life. I feel incredibly awkward because I'm sitting on a lake. Well, I'm not sitting on a lake, but I'm at the lake to film this video because I'm at the cottage and there is nowhere inside the cottage where I can film this because everybody's in the cottage making noise, but now there are also people outside and they're watching me, and I feel like a little awkward bean. But it is officially August 1st, which means that July has ended, and I am so happy with my reading wrap up for the month of July. It has definitely been the best month of the year so far. To give you a better understanding of just how good July was, I read half of the books I read this whole year in July. I read 17 books in July, and currently I'm at 35 books for 2021, so that is insane. Definitely have booktube to thank for that as well, and just videos and getting back into it. But let's get into all the books I read in July. One book I read this month was The Vanishing Half by Brie Bennett, I believe. It took me a really long time to get around to reading it because it was really popular last year when I worked in a bookstore, but I actually listened to it on audiobook because I forgot that I own it. I went home and then after I'd read it recently, and then I saw the physical copy and I was like, oh, okay. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it shed light on some really important topics, and I do want to read a lot more biphobic books. I totally said that wrong, but books this year. I only gave it 4 stars just because I felt like the pacing was kind of weird. The beginning of the book was super slow, and even a bit of the middle just felt like it was dragging on for a while. However, near the end, when more is happening and the sisters kind of reconnect again, I thought it was really beautiful, and to see the hurt on both sides was insane, and I loved how it went down to their children and how they still kept in touch, and their lives were just really interesting. So it was a good book. I just don't think it was the most exciting at times, and it was hard to stay focused for a long period of time near the beginning. Also, like a little synopsis is that there are these 2 sisters who grow up in Mallard, and they're both black, but they have a very fair complexion, so they could technically pass as white in another town, although everyone from Mallard looks like them, so they know that they're actually black. The twin sisters leave the town they flee, and one passes as white for the rest of her life and the other stays as black, and she even, is this a spoiler? I don't think so, but she actually has a child with a very dark man, so then her kid doesn't even look like her anymore. But it's just seeing the difference of their lives, one of the sisters passing as white and having this huge secret, and the other passing as black. And one of my favorite quotes in the book is actually from one of the sisters, Stella, and she says, "I love shopping. It's like trying on everyone you could be." And I was listening to the audiobook, I was walking when she said this, and I had to stop and write it down right away because I thought it was so powerful. Alright, the next book that I read in July was acotar, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I actually really enjoyed this. I definitely see why it's a guilty pleasure because it's not the best book in the world. It's not written phenomenally. The imagery just isn't there. But to kind of give you an overview, this girl commits this bad act, but she doesn't really know how bad it is at the time, and then she has to go live in this fairy world to kind of pay for what she did in the beginning. And of course, the guy who she's trapped with is great. He's a High Lord, he's a fairy, he's hot. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so there's a curse that, like, the guy has to fall in love with her, she has to fall in love with him, and it's super specific. Then the end of the book turns into a game show. I swear the protagonist is given these really weird tasks, and the antagonist is extremely cruel, but she's not very good at being evil because she could have easily just killed everyone in 3 seconds, and then she just draws out the story for no reason, although we are introduced to a really hot bad guy at that part of the book, so there was that. Like, it's not very smutty. Also, the first book is just not steamy at all, and a lot of people on booktok say that it is, so clearly our measurements of smutty are unaligned, as in moi and TikTok. But it's a good book. It feels like a guilty pleasure, which I said, but yeah, you should read it. I'm gonna read the entire series this month. I'm very excited. I just have to buy book 2 and 3. I have book 4 for some reason. This month I also read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I did a very long video about that, so if you want my in-depth thoughts and more of an overview, I'll link it. But overall, meh, like it really disappointed me. This show on Netflix got so much hype, the books got so much hype. However, I learned the difference between the trilogy and the duology. So apparently the Six of Crows Crooked Kingdom is fantastic. I don't know anyone who doesn't like it. Like genuinely, I have no relations with any person who did not like the duology, and I know everyone who didn't like the trilogy, which I am one of them. So I was disappointed, and I'm waiting a while to read the duology because I want to go into it with fresh eyes and not have this tainted, I guess, image of it or just expectations, because I don't really like Lee Bardugo so far, and I've also not heard very great things about the new series with Nikolai, even though I love him, so we'll see when I continue with her. I also read The House in the Cerulean Sea thanks to TikTok, and this book was amazing. It was so sweet, it was so wholesome, it just made me feel really good while I was reading it. I read it in one day and it was beautiful, and I think everyone should read it. It's this older man who works in this magical world. He is kind of working for I would call it the Ministry for Magic, like that's how I relate it. I think of Harry Potter Ministry, and he deals with magical kids, and he works for orphanages and goes and does checkups and makes sure everything's running smoothly and the kids are taken care of. Then basically one day he shows up for work and he's told he has to perform a very dangerous task and go to this very remote orphanage with very dangerous kids. There are 6 of them, and even the caretaker is kind of mysterious. And then he goes and he finds out that they're the best people ever, and it's just such a wholesome story and deals with very serious issues about honestly just discrimination and having prejudices against people, and it's done so well, so beautifully. The ending is so wholesome and everyone should read it. Next, I read Love and Gelato. Cannot remember the author's name, but this was a great book. I read it in one sitting, like genuinely I sat down, I started and finished the book. Did not get up to pee, even though I really had to near the end, but I just wanted to finish it. It was super cute, feels a little, not childish, but it's definitely YA. They're like 100% and you can feel it, but it is sweet. I'm reading the rest of the series. There are 2 more books, and I liked it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was an easy read. It definitely won't change your life. There aren't huge life lessons. It's a very predictable on the love aspect, but there was a really cool side plot, or I guess there were 2 big plots throughout the whole book. Like, it's the main girl's love story and her life in Italy, and then it's her figuring out her mom's past. And it's, I wouldn't say it's like really a mystery novel, but it's done super cute, and the plot is very interesting, and I really did want to find out what happened all those years ago, but I knew exactly what would happen with the girl's love story. So I also read The Song of Achilles this month. That book was really beautiful. The writing was immaculate, impeccable. I'm gonna do a video like just focused on that book, but to me, it did not live up to the emotional hype. Just so many people say that book wrecked them. It was the first book that made them cry, that the book was devastating. Yes, it's really sad, and I think the direction the author took for this book was amazing by kind of rewriting history, but it's fiction. But I just didn't get the emotional side of it. Like, it was not heartbreaking to me at all. I also know a bit about Greek mythology, so I knew what eventually would happen, but I feel like a lot of people would, so I don't understand why it caught them off by surprise. I don't know. I really liked this book, but the hype was too much. But not to take away from it, like I really think the writing was so beautiful and so refreshing, so good. I'm gonna stop talking now because I have too many things to say about it, so I'm gonna just do a whole video on that book. Another book I read this month was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was beautiful. So hard to read. I talk about it a lot in depth, in my TikTok video. I'll link it below. But it was an amazing, amazing book. Colleen Hoover's such a good romance writer, and I'm excited to read more of her books because she has so many great ones, and this was the first one I read by her and I want to read more. I also read People We Meet on Vacation. This was a major disappointment. I didn't really like it. I did not like the writing style. I did not like the main girl. The main guy was great, but the main girl, I found her kind of annoying. I did not like the things she complained about. The romance was cute, but not very exciting. And yeah, I'm gonna read beach read this week for sure on a sunnier day so I really get in the beachy mood. But we'll see if the author is actually good. I didn't really like People We Meet on Vacation, and once again I talk about this book a lot in my TikTok video. I also read We Were Liars. This was also a letdown. I did not really like it. I didn't enjoy the writing style. I didn't enjoy the overload of metaphors. I didn't like it. None of the characters really stood out to me either. I thought they were all kind of weird, and I know that was the point, but there are better mystery YA out there. I also read Second First Impressions. This is by Sally Thorne, the author of The Hating Game, which is one of my favorite books ever. She's also the author of 99% Mine, which is a pretty bad book. This one was like in the middle. This Second First Impressions wasn't that great at all. I thought it was slow. The main girl was a little exaggerated in her issues. I didn't connect with this book. Whereas The Hating Game, I cared so much about the characters. This one just didn't do it for me. I also didn't really like the plot, so obviously Sally Thorne has the capacity to write a great book, and she just has not since then. But the pressure must be so awful. Some of the reviews on Goodreads for 99% Mine and Second First Impressions were so mean, and I felt so bad for her because it's just people bashing on these books, saying that if you wrote The Hating Game, you can do better. This month I also read A Vow So Bold and Deadly. That is the third book in the, what is that series called? Cursebreaker series. It's a YA fantasy, really great actually. The first book, the second book was meh, the third book ruined my life just because of the ending. I again talk about the whole series and the last book in depth in another video. It was not my favorite YA fantasy ending, but the first book was so good. A lot of people agree on this, that the first book set up such an interesting plot, such a good world, such a good twist, and then the author just ruined it for everyone. I also read Little Women this month. That was so beautiful. I'm kind of sad it was the only classic I read this month. But to be fair, I finished Persuasions by Jane Austen on like June 30th, so right before July. And I finished North whatever Abbey this morning, but it's technically August 1st, so it doesn't count for my July. But still, I can't believe I only read one classic in July. Not that classics have like superiority in any way, I just really enjoy them, so I hope to read more of them. But I love me my YA, my fiction, my everything else I read. And then last this month I read Harry Potter, Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban. I'm halfway through Goblet of Fire. Reading those for Magical Mondays, and just because I love the series and wanted to reread. That is everything. Those are the 17 books I read in July. I had such a great month. I hope August is as good. I mean, I've already finished a book and I'm in the beginning of another book, so this month should be just as good. But I really hope you enjoyed. Hope you had a lovely day, night, evening, whatever time it is, and yeah, bye.